I'm going to show you how to make a really simple buttercream. Buttercream is a fantastic thing to be able to make. You can use it for sandwiching cakes together, for topping cakes, for decorating cupcakes, for making a crumb coat around the outside of your cake and then covering with ganache or with icing, and for sandwiching together biscuits. So what do we need to do? We need, first of all, really soft and squidgy butter. It's very important that your butter is really soft. If it's not really soft, you won't have a lovely creamy buttercream. So I'm putting in 125 grams of really soft butter. I use unsalted, but it is fine with salted as well. And then I'm adding 400 grams of icing sugar. I'm just going to add half of it to begin with. Well, roughly half. 40 millilitres of milk, and then 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now you can just mix this up with a fork or with a whisk, a hand whisk, but I'm actually going to use the electric whisk. If you're doing it by hand with just a fork or a whisk, then it is worth probably sieving your icing sugar beforehand. But as I'm using an electric whisk, I don't need to sieve it beforehand. There we go, it's lovely and creamy. I'm now going to add the rest of the icing sugar. You don't want to add it all at the beginning because it might fly out all over the place. It's coming together beautifully. I'm now going to turn it up to really high speed just so it's really light and airy. There you go, that looks delicious. And if you want it to go really pale white, you need to keep on beating it. And the longer you beat it for, if you beat it for 3 or 4 minutes, it will go an even paler colour. The other thing that it's really nice to do is to colour your buttercream. So just by adding a few little drops of food colouring, you can turn it into a pretty pink or another colour that you want to have for whatever theme you're decorating your cakes with. So I'm going to use a cocktail stick. I'm just going to use a tiny bit of pink colour paste here. Just add a few dabs. And we'll just mix it in before adding a little bit more if we need it. Okay. See, it's starting to become lovely pale pink. Tiny little bit more. The other thing you could add is you could add jam or some squashed strawberries in order to flavour it or to make it coloured as well at this stage. Or you might want to flavour your buttercream. You might want to add the zest of a lemon, some cocoa powder, or perhaps some melted chocolate. Now I'm going to use my buttercream to decorate some cupcakes. I've put a piping nozzle onto the end of my piping bag here, and I'm just going to pop it into the glass, just so it's a bit easier to fill it. You could use a jug or something similar, or just scrape it in. I just tend to get in a dreadful mess. I've got a nozzle on the end that's going to make a rose swirl, but there's lots of different types of nozzles you can use to make different patterns on the top of your cupcakes. Okay. So, if you've got this similar kind of nozzle and you want to make a rose swirl, you just need to do a spiral or a snail type of shape on the top of the cupcakes. Make sure you tighten it at the top and apply even pressure. It's better not to fill the bag too full, so you've got a bit to tighten around like this so you can hold it firmly. So starting in the middle, and I'm going to go round. This also looks pretty in other colours, or you might want to mix up the colours and have a few in pink, a few in lilac perhaps, or a few just plain vanilla ones. It's also lovely with all the different flavours that we talked about earlier, chocolate or lemon, or perhaps a coffee, to make them absolutely delicious. There we go. So I've decorated these with a pretty rose swirl using the piping bag, but you can also just simply use a palette knife and still have a very pretty decoration on top with the buttercream. And here's some just lovely vanilla buttercream that we made earlier. So what you want to do Start with a large dollop of buttercream, depending on how much you like, obviously. And then use the palette knife to just ease it up to the edges. It makes a pretty swirl. So we'll do a few like that as well. We're now going to make some pretty decorations out of sugar paste to go on top. You could use fresh flowers or some shop-bought decorations. It's just lovely to have something pretty to decorate your cupcakes with. Here we've got some sugar florist paste. This goes completely firm, or you can use sugar paste, which just stays slightly softer. It just depends on sort of personal preference. So I'm going to use a tiny bit of icing sugar. Good to use the duster so you don't add too much. And then I'm using a non-stick rolling pin. This is one of my favourite tools for decorating and for rolling out pastry and biscuits. You want to get it really nice and thin, otherwise they'll be too chunky and they won't be sort of attractive on top of the cakes. And I've got some great little stamping out cutters here to make little flower shapes. So we'll just do a few of those. Just press it in firmly so it's cut through. And then so you get a nice smooth clean edge, just rub it gently in your icing sugar and press out like that. If you make them out of the sugar florist paste, they'll last for about 6 months and you can just have a little supply made up and ready to use on all of your cupcakes. Also got some little butterflies. If you hang the little butterflies over the edge of something, just like this, then they will sit in the shape of a butterfly that looks like it's just landed on your cake. I think we've got plenty now. I'm going to leave those to firm up and get on with decorating some of the other cupcakes. We've got some lovely edible flowers just picked straight from the garden. We've got some little pansies, some little daisies, some tiny geraniums and some little sprigs of lavender. So I think they'll look lovely on these cakes and it's lovely for a garden tea party. Obviously make sure that they are edible and that they are safe for you to have on your cakes. These need to be put on just before you're about to serve the cakes, otherwise they'll go all brown and wilted. If you want them to last a bit longer, you could crystallise them just with a little bit of raw egg white whisked up and then dipped into a tiny bit of caster sugar, but you'll need to do that about 24 hours in advance. And then let's pop some of those sugar decorations we made on top of these ones with the rose swirl. If you've got some royal icing made up, it might be nice to pipe some little centres to your flowers or to the middles of the butterflies just to give an extra little bit of colour on top of the cakes. And then I think we'll just add just a few tiny little sprinkles on top of these ones too. So there we go, 2 lots of pretty cupcakes decorated for a lovely garden tea party.